Testing, testing, testing. Okay, right about here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. These?
la la la
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
I want to first begin by just recognizing, Rabbi Steele, it was just 2 weeks ago, we sent you off to Israel with a prayer that you would travel safely and with blessing, and that you would return safely and with blessings. And we are so grateful that you're back, catching up on your sleep, as you left a bit of your kind spirit in our Jewish homeland. You too have returned with the spirit of an Ahavat Yisrael, a lover of Israel. You return holding all that's real, the beauty and the pride-filled accomplishments, and the fractures and the fanaticism as well. Like America, Israel is a complicated place. We love them both with healthy critique. Welcome home, Rabbi Steele. And there may be somebody in your neighborhood where you're sitting right now that either you know really well and you want to say Shabbat Shalom, or you have never seen them in your life and you want to wish them a Shabbat Shalom. So go for it. And it is wonderful to see my friend, our friend, Paul Rockauer from the Jewish Community Relations Council, who will be properly introduced by Rabbi Steele a little later in the service. But Paul, it's just a blessing to have you here. And also, I'm just taking note that there's a lot of the Amendola family here tonight, and it is, we always feel Rose's presence. Rose would be sitting, one seat behind. And actually, it's available for people to sit. It doesn't need to stay open. But Rose's spirit is certainly always in this place. Would like to invite Risa Jacobson to share some announcements, and you'll let people know why you're up here, what your connection is to Temple Solel.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I'm Risa Jacobson, member of the Temple Solel Board of Trustees. We're so glad to have everyone here tonight. Welcome. Temple Solel would like to thank Herschel and Melissa Fink for sponsoring the Oneg this evening in honor of the bar mitzvah of their son, Miles Fink, Mazel Tov. Torah study is held every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 and also serves as a minyan for anyone saying Kaddish. Torah study is back in person every Saturday at Temple Solel as well as on Zoom. There is a tzedakah box as you enter the sanctuary. We are raising money for our International Rescue Committee. Our weekly e-news email contains opportunities to engage in the life of Solel. Take a moment to read it and get involved in any activity that appeals to you. And a reminder to be aware of your surroundings and make yourself aware of the exits. Remember, if you see something, say something. To make sure we can all enjoy Shabbat together in peace, please take a moment now to verify that your cell phone and all other electronic devices are silenced and put away inside a pocket or purse. And let's welcome Shabbat together. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Miles Fink, you're becoming a bar mitzvah tomorrow morning. We'd love to have you come onto the bima with your parents, Melissa and Herschel, and your brother, Taylor. Taylor, the oneg was good, yeah? Thumbs up on the oneg. Come on up, everybody. And we are on page 2 for the candle lighting. blowtorch.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Miles, do you have an available hand to hold the Kiddush cup to?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kosho ve'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit kihu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava u'ratzon himchaltanu.
Lift that nice and high.
Baruch atah
Is that as high as you can go?
Adonai
That's it.
Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim. Wow. It's empty. Usually it doesn't get drained quite that way. That's the spirit, Miles. Love that. Page 12, Lechu Neranana.
Lechu neranana. Yai lai 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 lai. L'Adonai. Yai lai 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 lai. Nahariya. Yai lai 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 lai. L'tzur yishenu. Yai lai 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 lai. Let us sing out to God, maker of all, sure and strong. Let all of creation from mountain to sea hear our song. Lechu neranena. Yai lai 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 lai. L'Adonai. Yai lai 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 lai. Nahariya. Yai lai 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 lai. L'tzur yishenu. Yai lai 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 lai. For all of the wonder and all of God's light, we rejoice. So now let us listen with all of our hearts to hear God's voice. Lechu neranena. Yai lai 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 lai. L'Adonai. Yai lai 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 lai. Nahariya.
And we'll turn to page 146. 146. As we bring ourselves into prayer with the Baruch Hu, the call to worship, please rise in body or in spirit.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Do you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Le'olam va'ed. Yalalai,
As one day comes to an end now and another day begins, we take the time to appreciate the gift of creation and of all of our days. Please join me on 147. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Arevim.
Avad olam bet Yisrael Amcha Avta Amcha Avta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu lemadeta, otanu lemadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shofrenu, uvkumenu nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha leolam. Ki hem chayenu be'orech yameinu uvahem nege yomam v'layla nege yomam v'layla ve'avatcha al tasir Olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. Shema
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Please be seated. So I was going to invite up Maddie Weber to help lead the Ve'ahavta, but I don't think she's here, right? Okay, just want to make sure I wasn't missing. Well, we will all join together in the Ve'ahavta on page 150.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
In this week's Torah portion, Tetzaveh, talks a lot about the first house of worship for the Israelites, the tabernacle and the building of it. And it repeats again this concept mentioned earlier that we need a place to come to be reminded of our connection with God and of our values. And I think of that with this next prayer that week after week reminds us not only of our connection to God, but of this mission that we have from God to help bring about a better world. So please join me responsively. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all. Yet that oneness eludes our grasp as imperfection and evil abound. Before our eyes there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness. There is evil enough to break the heart, and there is good enough to exalt the soul. When will redemption come? When we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves. Long ago we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High. We learned God's presence redeems time and event. So we celebrate this power that makes for freedom. Micha Mocha.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. תורה תהילו עושה פלא, תורה תהילו עושה פלא, אדוני
לפני משה ומרים, זה לי ענו ואמרו, זה לי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך באלים הקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא תהילו, עושה פלא, נורא תהילו, עושה פלא, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
Our next prayer on page 153 is the Hashkivenu, and maybe one of the most important things about this prayer is that it names that there are things that worry us, that we sometimes just want to forget, but the truth is we have anxieties, we have things that concern us, and this prayer says, God, help us in our time of anxiety. Let us feel your support as we go to sleep. Let us feel that you're there protecting us and preparing us for a new day.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים.
We turn our thoughts to friends and family who are in need of healing of the spirit and healing of the body. And I want to remind everyone that we have started now a new Mishaberach list. So it is shorter. However, if there's a name that you hear, that you don't hear, that is missing from this list that you think should be on it, just give us a call and we will put the person on the list. So on this Shabbat, we keep in our prayers Carol Brillman, Kit Kasich, Eileen Schwartz, Emmanuel Kalu, Helen Epstein, Leon Wall, Diane Harris, Diana Turk, David Lieberman, Dara Marks Marino, Mindy Brandt, Leonard Harris, David Demain, Nelson Lerner, Marlene Tucker, Andrew Sayapin, Sandra Slayton, Dr. Charles Saperstein, Barbara Jackson, Judy Cohen, Bella Kazan, Joni Thompson, Noel Krugman, Christian Krugman, Jay Berman, Lois Berman, and Dave Nichols. I'll go around if anyone wants to add any names. Keep all of them in our thoughts as we turn to the prayer for healing in the back inside cover of our prayer book.
El na'am b'fanai
us, renew our faith.
Grant us a perfect healing.
Grant us a perfect healing.
Bring peace to all our days.
Bring peace to all our days.
Elna Rafana, Rafana. Elna Rafana, Rafana. Restore our strength of body.
Restore our strength of body.
Help clarify our minds.
Help clarify our minds.
Refresh our tired spirits.
Refresh our tired spirits.
Rejuvenate our life.
Rejuvenate our lives.
Elna Rafana, Rafana. Elna Rafana, Rafana. Thank you for all these blessings
Thank you for all these blessings
throughout our days and nights.
throughout our days and nights.
We celebrate the journey,
We celebrate the journey,
this precious gift of life.
this precious gift of life.
Elna Rafana, Rafana. Elna Rafana, Rafana. Elna Rafana, Rafana. Elna Rafana, Rafana.
We turn now to page 155 to the beginning of the Amidah as we prepare to praise God for our connection to God throughout history with the Avot, and then for God's gift of life with the Givurot, and then for God's holiness with the Kedusha. Please rise.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagabor V'Hanora El Elyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim V'Koneh Hakol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot U'Mevi Geula Livnei Bneihem Leman Shemo V'Ahava Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai Mechaye HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim V'Rofech Olim Umatir Asurim ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצליח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. Please join me in a prayer for Shabbat at the top of page 160. Our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot, and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness, and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai our God, grant as our heritage your holy Shabbat, that Israel, who sanctifies your name, may rest on it. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. On page 164, Shalom Rav, a prayer for peace. We have such an amazing world, but also such a fractured world in need of healing. And so we are always praying for peace. So we'll join in that prayer, and then we'll take a few moments for silent prayer, joining back together in Yehiyu L'Ratzon on 167.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Yehiyu L'Ratzon im refi Behegion libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, begoali
In the Jewish calendar, this Shabbat, the Sabbath before Purim, is known as Shabbat Zachor, the Sabbath of Remembrance. On this Shabbat, in addition to reading from the Torah portion of the week, which is in Exodus, we also read 3 verses from chapter 25 in Deuteronomy, where we are told to remember Amalek. So who is Amalek? Amalek and his crew, back in Exodus, when the Israelites were first out of Egypt, just a few days out, came and attacked them for no reason, just hate. And the rabbis say not only did Amalek attack, but attacked from the rear, attacked those people who were the young, the infirm, those people who couldn't keep up with the rest, that is where Amalek went to take advantage of people. And so our Torah tells us we need to remember that there are people who are hateful. And centuries later, we again encounter Amalek's family, this time in the book of Esther, because we are told that Haman is a descendant of, yes, right, boo, of Amalek. So we see that hate, unfortunately, persists, and we see it until this day. And so on this Shabbat Zachor, we need to remember to be courageous like Esther and like Mordecai, and we need to face the fact that we do have some enemies still today. And so this is why we have asked Paul Rockauer to come talk about fighting anti-Semitism today. Paul Rockauer is the executive director of the Jewish Community Relations Council of Greater Phoenix, and I will let him share more about some of the wonderful work that the JCRC does. But it is very important that we have a JCRC here, and I hope that everyone will support it. And we are fortunate to have Paul Rockauer as the head of this agency. Paul was formerly the executive director of Levantine Public Diplomacy, an independent public diplomacy organization. He has managed State Department public diplomacy programs in dozens of countries around the world, including many countries in conflict. He has worked with multiple foreign ministries, including Israel, India, and Taiwan. And so we are so glad to have you here today.
Shalom, friends. Shalom. It's an honor to spend Shabbat here with you. Rabbi Linder, Rabbi Steele, and the Temple Solel community has been such tremendous friends and supporters of the JCRC and its work, and for that we are grateful. I'm here tonight, this Shabbat, to discuss a strategic response to rising anti-Semitism. I know this is an issue of great concern for our community, but I'm here to offer a little bit of hope and optimism. For those who don't know me, my background is in diplomacy, strategic communications, and conflict management. I've done media and public diplomacy with the Israeli Foreign Ministry during the Second Intifada and the Gaza disengagement. For years, I ran State Department public diplomacy programs in countries in conflict, everywhere from Algeria to Iraq to Venezuela to Zimbabwe. It was literally anti-Semitism that brought me here, and deep concerns about it after incidents like Charlottesville and Pittsburgh that led me to discontinue my international work and come here to Phoenix to help the Jewish community and other vulnerable communities get through difficult times. I came out to Arizona to fight Nazis in the desert, and frankly, Arizona has not disappointed. So at the JCRC, we do a few things. We do the crisis communications, the rapid response, and the conflict management on behalf of the Jewish community and other vulnerable communities. We create coalitions of support for any threatened or vulnerable community so that no community faces extremism alone. Unfortunately, the Jewish community has a lot of experience in this space, so we often are assisting other vulnerable communities who are not used to dealing with crises. This is part of the soft power of the Jewish community, the power of our influence, the power of our example, us being a light into the nations. When I'm not dealing with crises, we conduct advocacy, interfaith outreach and community bridge building on behalf of the Jewish community. We maintain the network of relationships on behalf of the Jewish community with different faith and ethnic communities, with our partners in law enforcement, and with civic leadership. We also serve as a press office for the Jewish community, helping get the Jewish community's voice into all of the different media spaces. What we do is we do public diplomacy to help other communities understand what keeps the Jewish community up at night, like rising anti-Semitism, and we help the Jewish community understand what keeps other communities up at night. Islamophobia, systemic racism, the need for criminal justice reform here in Arizona, issues with the immigration system. And I know there can be a lot that keeps the Jewish community up at night these days. These are difficult times. And that's compounded by the fact that our communal lens is based on historical trauma, something we all know, something unfortunately that our enemies try to exploit. So I've been in the trenches now here for over 4 years, and I can share with you some of the best practices and case studies of how we fight anti-Semitism strategically. If we can respond to incidents in a strategic fashion, we can reduce the tenor of concern and best manage this present situation. Some of what I'm going to say is a little counterintuitive, but what I'm trying to do tonight is to help socialize best practices for a strategic response to anti-Semitism that can help mitigate and manage our situation. I want us to use Jewish brains to fight anti-Semitism. And so first counterintuitive lesson, as Risa said in the beginning, if you see something, say something. If we should always be speaking up, be good upstanders, speaking out against hate whenever we see it. However, our adversaries often use that against us and use our responses on social media and in the media to amplify their vile hate speech. These are folks who are trying to terrorize us by making us think that they are bigger than they really are and are using our insecurities against us. I've been fighting a shadow war against a group called the Goyim Defense League, and I have a question. Has anybody here heard of the Goyim Defense League? Raise your hand. So I'm doing a very good job in that space then. If you've never heard of them, I'm doing a good job here. So the Goyim Defense League, it's a franchise neo-Nazi group across the country. It's a small fringe extremist group that gets linked up with other small extremist groups, and they adopt their brand. And they do a contest to try and provoke us into amplifying their work and give them attention. They try and terrorize our community with the hopes that they will provoke us to get a reaction on media or in social media. They're using the amplification of our fear. So what we do is we work to deny them the attention that they're seeking. So there have been flyering incidents across the valley, in Mesa, in Phoenix, in Tempe, and rather than give them the amplification that they want, we help spike the news story so that they can't terrorize and traumatize our community. Because they're not targeting the Jewish community. They are trying to get this out and trying to get amplification for their hate speech, not in direct threat. We have to understand the difference between harassment and real threat. So this is an extremely small group. I can count the number of members in Arizona on one hand. And frankly, they're losers. Like, these are people living in their parents' basement. They're just, they're human detritus. So if you find an ugly flyer in your neighborhood, or your neighbor finds a flyer, or someone in your neighborhood finds a flyer, don't post it on social media. Don't alert the press, who can be rapacious. Reach out to the JCRC, reach out to the Anti-Defamation League, reach out to Detective Hillman at the Phoenix Police Department, reach out to your rabbis, reach out to the synagogue. I work closely with synagogue executive directors and security directors, and alert us, and we can assess the situation, and we can deal with it. We can figure out if we need to amplify the situation or if we need to smother it. We can assess what we're dealing with. So you're aware, the JCRC, we maintain an intelligence bureau. We have one of the best journalists in the country who tracks extremists. And we keep him on retainer to keep his eyes and ears on extremist threats against the Jewish community here in Arizona. And he does incredible work. He goes to the deepest, darkest places that you don't ever want to go to on the internet, and he tracks extremists for the Jewish community so we can get intel reports to local law enforcement, to the FBI, to partners at the Anti-Defamation League. So as I was talking about flyers, I want to share a story of a situation we dealt with back in 2021. This was in Glendale. Another neo-Nazi group called the Aryan Nations, they did a round of flyering in Glendale, Litchfield Park, and El Mirage. And we found out about this in the Arizona Republic. This was something that got media attention. And in the story, there was a lot of buck passing between the different municipalities over who should be leading in the situation. And there was a sense of a lack of support by community members. So we created a coalition of community partners, including representatives from the Muslim community, the NAACP, Chicanos por la Causa in the Latino community, an organization called One Community, which represents the LGBTQ community, and the Arizona Faith Network. And we drafted a joint coalition letter to the mayors, sharing our concerns that citizens felt vulnerable and unsupported, and offered our organizations as resources against hate. Well, thanks to that letter and the coalition, the mayor of Glendale, Jerry Weirs, issued a proclamation to Glendale City Council on the eve of Yom Kippur 2021, declaring Glendale as a haven of tolerance and inclusivity, and that it would stand against harassment of its citizens. Quite the opposite of what the Aryan Nations was trying to do when they put out their flyers. So, another example, another case study for you. How many of you were aware that there was a neo-Nazi rally here in April of 2021? Any hands? 1, 2, 3? Okay, a few of you. So people are on top of this. We did a lot to try and tamp down on this, and I'll share a little bit about this. We had received word some 6 weeks prior that the neo-Nazis were planning to have a rally at the Arizona Capitol. And we felt that the main goal was to get publicity through their provocative behavior. The last time there had been a neo-Nazi rally here in 2010, it was a media circus. There were a dozen neo-Nazis, that's it, but they had a phalanx of police, having to guard them, and there were scores of counter-protesters. And unfortunately, there was tear gas, there were bottles being thrown, it became a real media spectacle. All of the journalists were there covering it. And we felt that they wanted to do something similar. They wanted to bait us and try and use images of violence to gain media coverage, because even Nazis do their own vile form of public diplomacy. So we wanted to use some Jewish brains on this and went about to deny them their goals and the attention that they were seeking. So we coordinated with our partners in the Jewish community and in different faith and ethnic communities to stand in solidarity against hate in the safest and most effective way possible, by staying away. Don't take the bait. We worked with experts at ASU's Public Safety Innovation Lab, who specifically advised law enforcement on violence prevention and community safety during public protests as a means to share best practices. We also partnered with a group called Cure Violence Global. If any of you read The New Yorker, there was a story about them about 2 weeks ago. Cure Violence Global treats violence and extremism from an epidemiological standpoint. And we did this to conduct a webinar with all the local media, TV, Arizona Republic, Arizona Mirror, on how to cover events without amplifying them. How do we not give these events the oxygen that those who are doing this are seeking? We worked with the Western State Center, which is like the Southern Poverty Law Center, for the Mountain West and Pacific Northwest, to keep intel around the event and try and track all the chatter. And we were in close contact with law enforcement leading up to it. So we had coordination to increase safety and security around Jewish institutions and synagogues. And when the rally happened, thankfully, it passed relatively peacefully and uneventfully. We had a little more than a dozen neo-Nazis that came out, and the counter-protest was probably about a dozen as well, and nothing escalated. There was no media coverage or attention for it, and it ended with the neo-Nazis leaving Phoenix without achieving their goal of attention or coverage. And given how precarious the situation was at the time, this represents quite a victory against hate. So now I'm going to fast forward and talk about something we're doing a little proactively today. We're doing something called an Arizona Nonprofit Security Grant Program, SB 1713. It's in the Arizona legislature right now. And this is to create a local state-based security grant program to aid small and medium-sized houses of worship and complement the federal program. There's a federal security program. It's quite robust, but it's also very cumbersome, and it's a reimbursement. You have to put capital outlay to do target hardening with only the hopes that you'll get reimbursed, and maybe only about 50% of houses of worship get reimbursements. So we are working on a state program to complement this. We're working with Senator David Gowan, and it's being led by a multi-faith coalition through the Arizona Faith Network, of which the JCRC is on the board. And this will create a more user-friendly security program here in Arizona. It'll do two things. One, it creates a mechanism to roll over the applications of those houses of worship that were denied funding in the federal program. They don't have to do anything new, just the same application gets right into the new program. Second, it creates a streamlined application for those small houses of worship that are unable to apply for federal funding. This bill would appropriate $5 million over the next 5 years for the state program. So if you want to do something practical to fight anti-Semitism, reach out to your state legislator about SB 1713 in support of this vital bill. This is something that will help the Jewish community, the Muslim community, the Sikh community, the LGBTQ community, all sorts of vulnerable faith and ethnic communities. And it's moving through the state Senate as we speak. It's received bipartisan support thus far. So, in closing, I will say this. Remember, don't take the bait. Reach out and assess so that we can assess and deal with situations strategically. Ignore social media, ignore the national press, and ground yourself locally. If you're feeling safe in your community, you are. I'm going to end with a quote from my favorite British bulldog, Winston Churchill, who said, "The further back you look, the further forward you can see." When I worked for the Israeli Foreign Ministry, I had a postcard on my desk, and it had a long list of the historical foes that we've faced. It had the Babylonians with a line crossed out, the Assyrians with a line crossed out, the Romans with a line crossed out, Crusaders, Nazis, Soviets, all of them with a line crossed out, and it ended with the likes of Yasser Arafat and Saddam Hussein. And during my tenure at the Israeli consulate, I got to take a big Sharpie and cross them out as well. Like my postcard, we'll cross out the names of those who threaten our community, and we will continue to endure. L'dor v'dor, we will face challenges and threats. L'dor v'dor, we will get past these threats, and we'll do so by using Jewish brains and being strategic in our responses. Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
Is it March? It's March. Anyone who's got a wedding anniversary in the month of March, come on up on the bima. Got a blessing to offer. March? Not a very popular month. Well, let's go right to Aleinu on page 282.
Please rise. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת זו גבל מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד.
May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, love to each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. You may be seated. When cherished ties are broken and the chain of love is shattered, only the trust and the strength of faith can lighten the heaviness of the heart. At times, the pain of separation seems more than we can bear. But if we dwell too long on our loss, we embitter our hearts and harm ourselves and those about us. The psalmist said that in his affliction, he learned the law of God. And in truth, grief is a great teacher when it sends us back to serve and bless the living. We learn how to counsel and comfort those who, like ourselves, are bowed with sorrow. We learn when to keep silence in their presence and when a word will assure them of our love and concern. Thus, even when they are gone, the departed are with us, moving us to live as in their higher moments they themselves wish to live. We remember them now. They live in our hearts. They are an abiding blessing. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. Invite you to rise after the name of your loved one is read, after which we will rise as a community supporting the mourners with the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Is there anyone in the period of Shiva within our community, the first 7 days of mourning? In the period of Shiloshim, the 30 days of mourning, Stephen Watts, Arnold Rabin, Dorothy Vinegar, Barbara Harris. And within the first year, Arlene Bonin, Farrell Sachs, Stephen Allen Cohen, Judy Selinsky, Shirley Garfield, Judith Giller Linewell. And those whose yahrzeits occur this time of year. Naomi Achtman, Orly Bentor, Marvin Blechman, Joseph Braun, Carolee Brecker, Alexander Berger, Samuel Cohen, Rosa Becker Kolb, Elizabeth J. Dees, Murray Feldberg, Betsy Giller, Tandrea Goodfarb, Herbert Gordon, Charles Grotsky, Joan Heller, Ann Hyman, Charles B. Kaminsky, Milton Kaplan, Rhoda Kay, Harry Linewell, Boaz Lur, Jeanette Lustgarden, Elias Markowitz, Rabbi Yitzchak Nadler, Hyman W. Perlgut, Herman Press, Henrik Radecki, Rose Rudberg, Robert I. Schubert, Marian Sokolinski, L. Jerome Sokalski, Nathan Wahlberg, Naomi Weiner, Michael Weiss, Sumner Wyman. Are there any other names you wish to remember this Shabbat? We rise as a community also praising God for those who lie in unmarked graves. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach cherutei, v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon, uv'chayedecho Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mavarach Leolam Ulamei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shemed kudsha berichu. Le'ela minkol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to Israel, and to all the world, to which we say, amen. So, Todd and Carrie, it occurs to me that March is a good month to be married. Next year, you'll be able to have the whole bema to yourself when you're called to celebrate your wedding anniversary, but it's premature. It's premature. In other words, they're going to get married this month. Cody, I need you. I need you, Cody. Yeah, you didn't think you were going to get a job here. Cody opened it. Hold this nice and high. Beautiful. It's like Simba. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Now you get your reward. You get to take a piece. Yeah. Are you going to share that with your dad? Well, I'll share it with your dad. And then it'll be out in the foyer. Rabbi Steele, do you have some announcements to make?
Hope everybody grabs the handout and want to remind everyone that Monday night is Purim. We hope you will come 5:15 for the Megillah reading. 6 o'clock, we're going to have a wonderful dinner with guacamole and quesadillas and margaritas and sangria. So
why that food?
Yes, because at 6:30 we are going to have the Purim spiel, Allah and canto. So it's called "We Don't Talk About Haman." Yes, and it's very fun. So definitely come and enjoy.
And we're going to end with a sundae, as in a hot fudge sundae bar. That's the way we're going to end. So who would want to miss that? Got a closing song?
I do. You can find Adon Olam on page 321. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Me'ed Nasa V'chetzo Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Gichot HaKol Levado Yimloch Torah Ve'hu Hayah Ve'hu Oved Ve'hu Yeh B'tifara Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'ed Nasa V'chetzo Kol Zay Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Gichot HaKol Levado Yimloch Torah Ve'hu Hayah Ve'hu Yeh B'tifara Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'ed Nasa V'chetzo Kol Zay Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Gichot HaKol Levado Yimloch Torah Ve'hu Hayah Ve'hu Oved B'tifara Ve'hu Hayah Ve'hu Oved B'tifara Ve'hu Hayah Ve'hu Oved B'tifara.
Baruch atah b'voecha. Blessed is each of you for creating a community this Shabbat. Baruch atah b'tzeitecha. May you be blessed as you go out, taking messages of peace and love, countering hatred, and continuing to insist on being a light unto the nations. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. You as well. You as well. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
This wasn't a good one. Yeah, engaged and now he's a married man. Yeah. So, no, yeah. Well, who knows? I don't think they're on a rush. 31 and 26. Yeah. You both great. Your life's good. Nancy and I pinch ourselves every day for that milestone. Give, yeah. We have absolutely. They'll have positive, obviously, challenges. Well, great. Shabbat Shalom.